Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday. I am super late to this party, so I apologize. I meant to jump on earlier today, but it's Monday. Client calls went a little bit over, and things just kind of got in the way. I'm here to talk about Laura's case study. From time to time, I like to highlight client success stories, talk about case studies, especially when I think that certain success stories are very relevant to some of you in this group. And this is one of those scenarios. So I have been working with Laura for 3 months. She's actually in her fourth month currently. She's a very busy mom of 3 kids, has a very stressful, high demanding job, and not a ton of time to work with. So our systems and strategies have really been sort of around the idea of just keeping everything super simple, keeping everything concise and manageable for a very busy working mom. So to give you a little backstory, before Laura and I started working together, she was a typical serial yo-yo dieter. I think the most recent was Isagenix. So kind of like on and off Isagenix product user and random Beachbody workouts. But just like anything else, she didn't want to go back to diets that were kind of losing efficacy. And she was noticing that as she aged, things like Isagenix it really wasn't working for her the same way it did in the beginning. And then overall, the restriction of certain diets like this kind of made her emotional eating triggers worse. So she knew she just needed something different. She needed something, like I said, easy, manageable, simple, right? But this is why, coaching clients in general in a one-to-one program or a group program, 3-month minimum commitment. I'll explain why that is. But a lot of times with emotional eating and binge eating especially, you can feel like there's sort of no off switch. And that's really, really challenging, right? So like eating past fullness, when you allow certain foods back on the table that have been off the table for so long, it can be really, really difficult to not spiral in a sense, and to kind of like get yourself back into a neutral state with all foods and kind of get yourself in like a flexible eating mindset while you're allowing all foods, but also putting health top of mind. And this is just simply not easy to do alone, right? Because when you're trying to go at it alone, it can be very, very easy to just fall back to restrictive patterns. That's what you're used to, right? So if you've been on and off yo-yo dieting for 15 years and you're kind of just expecting to all of a sudden overnight prioritize healthy foods about 80% of the time and still include fun foods without guilt, it's probably not going to happen like that. So this is part of the reason a coaching program needs to be at least a 3-month minimum commitment, because you need that consistency and repetition to allow those healthy habits to work. And it just doesn't happen overnight. Creating new neural pathways is not something short term, right? So that's kind of where she started out. And I knew I needed to kind of get into the nitty gritty of some of this eating behavior, because eating behavior is very, very complex, right? So Laura is currently in her 4th month. She's down 15 pounds. So over a 3-month period, when you break down that weight loss, and she's also started out the heaviest weight she had ever been. So over that 3-month period, when you break it down, that looks like somewhere around a 0.5 pound to 2 pound weight loss every single week. But when we broke down week to week, that's not exactly how things looked every single week. It wasn't just this perfect cohesive, okay, now you're down 3 pounds, next week you're going to be down 2 pounds. Wasn't like this, doesn't work like that. So some weeks maybe she was down a little more than 2 pounds, other weeks she was down less than a half a pound, depending on vacation, work stress, work travel, so many factors, right? But over that time, she remained consistent, and I'll talk about what she really, really did well, and things that I attributed her success to. So sometimes when you're looking at like less than a half a pound loss in a week, that can feel kind of discouraging. But I'll talk about the beauty of taking a long-term path and why, you know, a mild calorie deficit and mild weight loss week to week is actually a more positive thing in the long run. So a couple things that she did really well. She had no problem sticking to a higher calorie deficit. So around 1900 calories was her very mild calorie deficit. That's what we've been working with for about 3 months. Very mild and very little hunger, no out of control cravings. She had absolutely no problem eating that much food and also enjoying small treats every day. Because like I said, with emotional eating, you need to remove the novelty of certain foods and kind of allow them in all forms every single day, which takes the novelty away within reason. So she had no problem having a daily treat as part of her routine. That was a key factor in eliminating that restrictive behavior for her. So that was something she did really, really well. She was also really great at celebrating her wins. Because like I said, the smallest wins really do add up to milestones. So if someone's stepping on the scale thinking, fuck, I'm only down a half a pound, instead of saying, yes, I'm down a half a pound this week. Those two critical mindset shifts are so important in the long game, because if you're comparing a sustainable fat loss journey to a prior weight loss journey, which may have been restrictive, which may have been an experience like I'm down 5 pounds every single week, why am I not down the same 5 pounds this week and week to week to week? It's just not going to be the same thing. So you have to find other ways to celebrate wins and other positive areas to focus on that typically don't even involve the scale. So taking power away from the scale while tracking progress is a huge part of the process too, because I like to track weight, yes, but a lot of times it's only to make a comparison to a progress photo to say, holy shit, my weight didn't change that much, but look at the significance in my body's changes. Look at the significance in my progress photos, 6 months down the road, a year down the road, whatever, or my measurements or how my clothes are fitting. This is part of the reason why I like to track weight. Sometimes to see, oh shit, the power of the scale, I was giving it much more power than I needed to even give it. All right. So that was one of the things she did really, really well. She also asked questions often. So she wasn't waiting until the following week, the next time we had a call, to address something. She was asking questions very often. She was also very, very forthcoming and honest when she was experiencing challenges. So when you're working with a coach, sometimes, your coach isn't always going to know what you're going through day to day. It's kind of on you to bring that to the table, because if you're thinking like out of sight, out of mind, that's not going to get you anywhere. You're not going to win with that type of mentality. So she was super honest. She was honest and accurate with her nutrition tracking, even if that meant looking back and seeing things that maybe she didn't necessarily want to face. But again, when you're working with a coach, and if it's a good coach, they'll highlight what needs to change. And a lot of the time, even if there's not honesty, the coach is still going to, one way or the other, highlight what needs to change. Because if there's not honesty or consistency in tracking and something's not adding up, it's going to be highlighted one way or the other. It's just easier if there's two-way communication always 100% of the time. So she was really, really great with that. And she was not shy to talk about her emotional eating triggers, especially, and when she was kind of falling back into old habits, which happens. You know, there's ebbs and flows, even when the process is super solid. Like, even when there's little to no hunger, little to no cravings, sometimes there's still going to be challenges when you've got, life happens. You've got work, you've got kids, you've got time restraints, and things just come up. Things get in the way sometimes. So it's not always going to be this beautiful, cohesive thing. There's going to be ups and downs. It's important to focus on the positive, yes, and celebrate big, small, personal, professional wins every step of the way. But it's not going to be just like no bumps in the road. So the best part overall about Laura's process is she's currently down 15 pounds after 3 months, going into month 4. And this is actually the first time we're making a cut. Okay, so her body, now sitting at 15 pounds lighter, is going to require less calories, which is going to make her cut so effective and barely even noticeable. So her body is almost just like ready for this cut. She's at the point where she's like craving it almost. And this is also where a lot of people will flip that script, start out super drastic, experience all of the negative side effects of a drastic restrictive calorie deficit. And now when that happens after 3 months, you don't have anywhere else to go. You can't cut even more calories from a very restrictive calorie deficit. You just can't do it. So this is where people typically go the other direction and start gaining weight back. With Laura, we're actually taking the first time a minor calorie cut that her body is ready for, which is going to make her future fat loss even more seamless and just normal part of the process. Like, she's not going to have any additional hunger. She's still going to allow all foods, mostly nutrient dense foods. Of course, we're not completely eliminating our healthy mindset, but she's going to continue to have daily treats. She's going to carve out around 200 to 300 calories every single day for a treat. She's going to continue to have one flexible eating day every single week. And she's just going to enjoy the process. And when you enjoy the process and when you really embrace it, it becomes that much easier to continue on with ease. Not saying that we won't make additional adjustments. Maybe we will adjust her macros slightly. But she's tracking, she understands macronutrients, she understands where she needs to be honest, how often she needs to pop up and ask a question in order to address something right away rather than a week later. Because week to week, although things might feel insignificant, I've talked about this before, your monthly progress will come down to weekly averages. Plain and simple. So there's a lot of flexibility in that statement. That means you can 1000% have an off day, right? Like, the beauty in loosely tracking macronutrients and calories, especially in a mild deficit, is you can have so much freedom, and it's not black and white. It's not like you're eating within a specific eating window or you're not. You are cutting carbs or you're not. This is not black and white or on and off like most diets. So when my clients realize this, this mindset alone just really, really allows you to have that winning positive mindset to continue forward. So I just wanted to share that little snippet with you guys. If you have any questions about a one-to-one coaching program or a group coaching program, I always welcome them. We can have a consult call, but anytime I highlight a client success story and I feel like it will resonate, I choose to share it because I feel like clients can inspire so many of their friends, family, community members, whatever, but not if they're closed off and not talking about it. So it's funny when I'm like out on the sports fields or like hanging out with other moms, all I hear about is diets. And maybe that's because like that's kind of where my mind is working with clients all day, but I think that's just part of our culture. And when you're constantly focused on restricting more or eliminating more instead of adding in, that's going to make significant progress or significant impact on your progress. So I loved Laura's story and I wanted to share it. Let me know if you have any questions and hope you guys are having a great Monday. I'll talk to you soon.